Hi folks, and welcome in. So this is my video for Ethel Cross's Candy Corn Conga Line channel hop. I want to thank Marty and Jen for sending everybody over from their video. And down in the description below will be the link to the next video in line, and that is Kubrick Lover 1972. He's doing a music, don't want to say a music video, but he's doing a video about music and stuff. So, yeah, I'll be sure to go straight from this video on over to his video. Like I said, the link will be the first link down in the description. For those of you that are new here, welcome in. For those of you who have been around and seen me before, thank you so much for coming back. There are all kinds of links down in the description, along with the Kubrick Lovers link, and those are for my personal links, Teespring, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, all the usual stuff that people have. But there's also going to be a link, and because I'm doing this as a premiere, it'll be a pinned comment in the chat as well. A really good friend of mine, Aiden Crew, does the Go Sober for October for charity over in the UK every year. His wife is a cancer survivor. She had ovarian cancer, and he raises money every year for Macmillan Cancer Support. They do all kinds of really nice things for people. When his wife, Miss Louise, was going through her treatments, they put Aiden up in a hotel so that he didn't have to drive an hour back and forth every day. They do other things too. They arrange rides back and forth for people who need them, general support, end-of-life care, all of that stuff. And all of that stuff, a lot of the money that they get is raised by volunteers. It's a lot of volunteer work. So if you have if you can spare anything, I think he's raised almost $2,000 at the time of me recording this. It's just short of 2,000 pounds that he's raised this year. If you have a few to spare, go ahead, check his link, and if you can donate, that's great. If you can't, that's perfectly understandable. You can go and get the link and share it around. If you would do that, that would be awesome. So getting on in here into the video that we're doing today, my channel started off doing something different. I started off as a vape mixer for DIY vape juice, and I've transitioned over into my other love, which is horror movies. So most of the things that I have done so far horror related on this channel have revolved around the big four franchise. So I thought, this being Halloween and all of that, I would kind of say goodbye to them and move on to doing other things on other horror related stuff on the channel. And I would do that by going out with a bang and ranking all 40 entries currently, including Halloween Kills, of the big four franchises. So this is going to be the final countdown, because this is the last time I'm ranking these movies. May not be the last time they come up in other videos, but this is the last ranking video for the big four franchises. So let's go ahead and get started here with number 40. And alright, so the way that I ranked these, before we get into the actual list itself, the way that I ranked them was not necessarily which one is the best made movie, or anything like that. This is my personal list, my opinion on which ones that I enjoy the most, which ones that I think for me resonate the most, and the ones that I would watch the most. So the ones that I just don't get on with, the ones that I don't enjoy personally, and the least likely to watch are the ones that are at the bottom of the list. Like every other list out there, like every other ranking, it's all opinion and it's all subjective. We're going to start off with number 40, and number 40 for me, this is going to be a controversial one, and there's going to be some very controversial placements on this list. But out of all 40 movies on this list, I am the least likely to watch and enjoy the least is Halloween 3. I know there are a lot of people who love this movie, but I have a specific reason why I have never liked this movie. Back in '84 or so, when this movie came out, I was just getting into horror about that time. I hadn't seen any of the Halloween movies at all. '84, '85, in that area. Was talking horror movies with some friends at school and some people that I knew. I had already seen the first Friday. I had already seen... I know I saw the first Elm Street before this, even though that came out in '84. And there was several others that I saw. Growing up in the '70s, of course, I saw Jaws, and I saw, all of that stuff. And, we were talking about horror movies, and they kept telling me how great the Halloween movies were. And how much better the Halloween movies were than anything else that was out there. So I went to the video store to rent it. I was going to get the first 2 Halloweens, and they were rented out. Got something else. Came back the next week. They were rented out again. So I grabbed Halloween 3, not knowing that Halloween was that the first 2 Halloweens at that point were slashers, not knowing that 3 wasn't, not knowing who Michael Myers was, not knowing that 3 was part of a proposed anthology series. I was just told that the Halloween movies were so much better than everything else. And at 12 years old, 13 years old, whatever I was in that area, I didn't like this movie. I thought it was bad. I still don't enjoy this movie. That's the reason why, and it has never grown on me over the years, as many times as I've watched it, and I've probably watched it 10 times in the last all those years. For me, that is number 40 on my list. So number 39 on my list is Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. This is one of those movies that I don't like the look of Jason in it. I don't like the boat ride aspect of it. I don't like any of the kills. The head punch kill that everybody else seems to love in this one, I kind of saw that one coming even as a teenager when I first saw this. The ending of it is the ending of this movie, and we all know what that whole toxic waste thing. I just don't enjoy this movie. I never have. I don't like the look of Jason. I think the story is dumb. I don't remember any of the kills in it other than that one, and I didn't like it. I don't like the main human antagonist. I don't like the final girl. So for me, this movie is number 39 on the list. So number 38 on the list is A Nightmare on Elm Street 6, Freddy's Dead. So this movie has a couple of moments in it that I like. The flashback sequences are good. I really enjoy those. And the one-liner with the Power Glove, because I grew up in that era. The Power Glove was garbage. It never worked, but Freddy made it cool by making it steampunk. The line, "Now I'm playing with power," that cracks me up. The hearing aid kill is a cool kill, but that's it for this movie. I don't think anybody in it was very good acting. The story's dumb. There's way too much comedy. The 3D effects were bad at the time, and they sure don't hold up now. That one's number 38 for me. So moving on to number 37, and here's another one of those controversial ones. Wes Craven's A New Nightmare. This movie is slow. I don't think that Heather Langenkamp does a very good job in this movie. I don't think that she acts very well. I think Robert Englund's the only one in it that I like. Both of his portrayals of Freddy in this one, the demon, looks really cool, and I really love what they did to give him claws instead of just the knives. That looks good. The kills are a rehash. It's slow. There's only a couple of kills in it. I don't like the kid. Like I said, I think Heather Langenkamp just kind of phoned this performance in. Wes Craven was not a very good actor. For me, this one just doesn't hit its mark. It tries to do something interesting, and I like the movies that came after it. I like some of the early 2000s movies, especially The Scream, and we wouldn't have had those movies without this one. But for me, this one just doesn't resonate, and I get bored with it. So number 36 on my list is Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Yep, I know there's a lot of people who love this one too. I don't. I like the original. I love the original. The original is much further on down this list. I like the way that the comedy was handled in that one. It's very dry. It's very subtle, but it's genuinely funny. This one is just silly and slapsticky. I don't like the mask. I don't like what they did to Drayton. aka the cook. I cannot stand Chop Top. That character is just so annoying and obnoxious. It's just, there's nothing that he does on screen is scary or intimidating. It's just stupid. I do like Stretch, and I like the overall story to it. I just think it was handled terribly. It feels like a Three Stooges sketch at times. The phallic use of the chainsaw versus it being used as an intimidating weapon. Dennis Hopper character is like Jack Torrance from The Shining. It's just way too far gone. It's like you took that character and put it into this, and it just doesn't work for me. I don't hate Dennis Hopper, but, you know, I don't like him in this role, and I don't like him in this movie. So it just doesn't work for me. So number 35 on my list is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And I don't like either version of it. Don't tell me that the director's cut and the producer's cut and the theatrical cut and all of this stuff, which one you like better. They're all at this exact same spot. I don't like. There was a spin-off album from the band that plays in the at the bar, the Captain Clegg. That's a really cool album. If you can find it on iTunes or YouTube or something like that, that's awesome. I do like the guy who plays Michael as an adult, and I like that they tried to do something different. I respect it for what it did, because Rob Zombie made a sequel to his Halloween, and not a. Even though his Halloween 1 is a remake, his sequel is not a remake in any means of the original Halloween 2. It's a direct sequel to his Halloween. So I respect that. I get what he was trying to do. I like what he tried to do with Jamie, but I don't enjoy it. Her performance in the first one was great, and in this one it's not. Brad Dourif's great in it, but Brad Dourif's great in pretty much everything. So you got Brad Dourif, Michael Myers, and a completely unrelated spin-off album, or semi-unrelated spin-off album. Nothing else in this movie works for me, and I don't give two shits about the White Horse. I was already gone with this movie before that ever got there. I don't care if he speaks in one version and doesn't in the other. He is a living character, so the fact that he decided to speak one single word doesn't hurt the character for what they were doing in this movie. I love Malcolm McDowell. I love him as an actor, but I don't like what they did with Loomis in this one, but I like his performance of Loomis in the first one. So this movie just doesn't work for me, and it's number 35 on my list. Alright, so number 34 on the list is Jason Goes to Hell. I think this movie was a huge missed opportunity for New Line. If you took the Jason bits out of this and just took the basic body hopping story in it and made it like a voodoo killer, kind of Chucky-esque, but not the doll, but just that idea, the voodoo element of it, or something else like that. Even if it was a satanic ritual type thing on it, I think that the body hopping thing, only the bloodline can kill it, the Kandarian dagger, all of that stuff could have been a really cool movie, and it could have been a really cool franchise that they ruined by trying to make it a Friday the 13th movie. Now, the opening sequence with the FBI right up to that point, this movie is badass. That whole opening sequence is awesome, and I love that. And like I said, I think the rest of the story could have been good as a franchise of its own. I just don't think it works as a Friday the 13th movie. I think there's some potential there. I think there's some decent performances there. I love the Crichton Duke character. I like the actor who plays him. John D. LeMay, I like him as an actor. I always liked him in the Friday the 13th series. TV series. I think he does a good job in this one. Erin Gray, I have loved her as an actress since Buck Rogers days. Yes, I'm that old. But the movie just doesn't work. The edit on it is bad. There is actually one of the best kills, probably my favorite kill in the entire franchise, is in this movie, and it's in the tent scene, and we all know what that one is, where he splits the woman in half from the middle up. That's awesome. The intro is awesome. The movie could have been good. I won't say it could have been awesome, but the movie could have been good if it hadn't been shoehorned into Jason. Some of the secondary characters, the couple that runs the cafe, are hysterical. So there's really some good potential with absolutely no payoff. So number 33 on my list is Halloween 6. And I don't care if you're talking about, again, the director's cut, the theatrical cut, the producer's cut, the online cuts that people have made. The whole Thorn trilogy, 4 is way on down this list because I really love 4 and there's a story behind that one. 5's on down this list too because I actually enjoy 5. It has some issues, but 6 for me, I like Paul Rudd in it as Tommy Doyle. I liked some of his character in it and what they did with it. And I don't care, I don't bag on it because they swapped out Jamie Lloyd. You know, yes, I would have much rather had Danielle Harris, but I don't think the girl that they replaced her with is bad. And I don't hold it against her. That was on the studio, but that doesn't really affect this movie for me watching it. I just think that the pacing on it's bad. The ending on it is dumb. There's some decent atmosphere and some good kills, but the whole cult thing is just way too far out there. I will say I do prefer the producer's cut, but it's literally they're 1 and 2 together, so they're in the same place. So number 32 on my list is Halloween Resurrection. Most people rank this one as the very worst. Again, I think there was some ideas behind it that were good, and I just don't think they were executed very well. It was way too much a product of its time. I don't mind Jamie Lee Curtis only being in it for a few minutes because I know the story behind it. Originally, the first time I saw it, yeah, that pissed me off like it did everybody else. I think that would have worked better if it had been maybe put into a different place in the movie, maybe shown as a flashback or something else. Just opening your movie with retconning the great ending from H2O and killing off Laurie in the same moment, that should have been split up. That should not have been together. It would have made the movie better. It still wouldn't have been good with what they did. The Busta Rhymes thing, I don't like the way that they punked Michael Myers with his character, but I actually like his character. He cracks me up, but I like I said, I don't like that interaction, but I like him and that character. And really, he's the only memorable character in it to me. I do like the performance, the actor who gave for Michael Myers in it. Honestly, I don't think there's really any one of the Michael Myers performances in the entire franchise that I hate, but I did like that one in this one for some reason. And this is one that I did see in the theater. I just don't think that it was overall very good. I don't like the way that they retconned, the way they went about it. You knew when they were going to make another one that they were going to have to bring him back some way, but I just didn't like the way that they did it. So number 31 on my list is A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child. This is another one of those that's a missed opportunity. I like the look of it, and I really like Alice's character in it. I also think that the basic story to it is actually one of the better Nightmare on Elm Street stories. Freddy coming back through the child's dream. It's an interesting idea and concept. Just I didn't like the way that they played Freddy. I didn't like it's just too much comedy, too many one-liners, too much silliness. You know, all the things that everybody else complains about on it. But I do like the story idea that now they're going to have to free his mother from where she was entombed. And she's going to come back and take him away. Not necessarily the fight at the end of it, but the chase at the end of it through the dream world, with the staircases that go in all the different directions. I like the visuals on that. I love the look of that. But I have trouble watching a movie that's all just style over substance. I don't think the substance in this one was done well. I think like I said, I think the story concept to it is really cool. I think it's a really good on paper concept. Just they took Freddy way too far out. None of the characters other than Alice are very likable. The kills are minimum. The kill with Dan on the bike, of course, everybody loves that one, and I do too. That's probably one of great kills from the franchise. It's probably easily top 5 kill from the franchise. I don't like the biker chick that they turn into the roach, and I don't like the model, that whole bit. Number 30 on the list is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise is really all over the place. And this one loses most of its points by being very basic. It's a very, very basic slasher movie. And the first one it's kind of a prototype slasher. It is a slasher, but it's not a slasher. It's enough that it kind of qualifies for it, but it doesn't qualify for it. And it was the first. Well, not the first, you know, that technically goes to Peeping Tom and Psycho. And I think there's another one that people like to throw in on that. But, you know, it's really that, it's part of that era that took it from the castles in the old world and brought it down to more relatable, to more the person next door horror movies. But 3, Ken Foree is great. Viggo Mortensen is great. And I like the portrayal of Leatherface, and I like the way that Leatherface interacts with the child. It's weird to think that Leatherface has a child. I know some people say he does. Some people say that the child's his. Some people say it's not. I always read it as the child was his, which I thought was really weird. But I like the portrayal of him, and I like Ken Foree, and I like Viggo Mortensen in it, but I don't really care much for anybody else. The couple that come in, the girl is okay. I was rooting on the dude to die from the second he opened his mouth. Mostly it's just bland. Had a cool advert for it when it debuted, the silver chainsaw coming out of the lake. That was cool. Never happened in the movie, but the advert was great, right? So, I don't hate this movie by any means. This is kind of the pivot point in this list. Everything below this is kind of stuff that unless I'm marathoning it, I'm just not going to watch anything above this one. This one right here, I will watch on its own volition, but it's just not really my favorite, so that's number 30. Alright, so number 29 on this list is another TCM movie. But it's TCM for the next generation. Yeah, this movie is batshit insane. It has so many problems with it, and I hated it up until I was going back through things for the Franchise Wars series that I did, and I rewatched it again after talking to some people. They did kind of set me on a path. I hate that stupid twist at the end of it with the Illuminati, and I hate the masks. And the regular killing mask looks like an old football that's been cut up. It's terrible. The Pretty Woman mask in this one, the mask itself I don't absolutely hate it, but I don't like it. It's kind of that in the middle. But the chest piece on it looks so off, so odd. Instead of like what Leatherface would do and actually use a person for it, it looks like he used a dress dummy. It literally looks plastic, and that just really throws me on it. Of course, Matthew McConaughey's character in it is absolutely insane. He is the most Nicolas Cage I have ever seen McConaughey do in a movie, and not the good Nicolas Cage. And, you know, in the beginning, I hated that. I hated the predictable twist when they went to the insurance office, and it turns out that the insurance lady is the family member. You know, it's been done all up the line so far, so doing it again really felt cheap and stupid. I do find the scene where she stops to get pizza on the way home with her locked in the trunk is pretty funny. I like Renee Zellweger as an actress. I think she does pretty good in this one for what she was given. The chase scene at the end of it's quite good. It's very reminiscent of the first one. Yeah, they really ripped themselves off. But if you really look at it, this one has a lot of humor in it, which, yeah, okay, 1 and 2 had humor in it. 3 had a little bit. But this one, for me, I used to hate it, but now I don't love it. But it's definitely in the watchable category because it's just, I don't know, it's just such a ripoff of it. It's almost a parody of the first one in a way. And it's not a good parody of it, but it's so bad it's good. Right up until the Illuminati show up and it gets stupid. So number 28 on the list is Friday the 13th 7, The New Blood. Carrie versus Jason. The final fight between Tina and Jason is awesome. That whole section of the movie I could watch 10 times. Up to that point, other than Tina, there's not a character in this movie, including the love interest, that I like. Well, the nerdy girl I like, but nobody else. Everybody else got on my nerves, or I was rooting for Jason, and not in the way that I normally root for Jason. It wasn't, I want to see him do something creative. It was, kill his Joker and get them off the screen because I'm tired of hearing them. There are some interesting kills in it. Again, I know a lot of people like Dr. Cruz in this, dude from Weekend at Bernie's. I liked him better in Weekend at Bernie's. I liked the weed eater with the blade on it. That's a cool thing. The horn to the face, the party horn to the face, that was kind of cool. I like that. That's really, up until the end, that's really kind of all the ones that I remember. But I don't like any of the characters, so the final fight at the end is great up until the finale, and the father dragging him back into the lake and chaining him back up was creative, but not good. So number 27 is Freddy vs. Jason. Now for me, Freddy vs. Jason is definitely a Freddy movie. It feels like New Line from the beginning to the end. All the characters in it feel New Line and feel Freddy. There's some decent kills in it. The bed kill's great. And again, the fight at the end of it, once you actually get to Freddy vs. Jason, I like the first one. The water thing's a bit of a give or take, but I like the first fight, but the epic fight at the end of it is awesome. So good, and everything that we were promised, it makes up for the rest of the movie to a point. It's definitely a product of its time, right up to the blue camera filter that they used throughout the entire thing. Probably one of the things that really makes it feel like a New Line. But, you know, they got back where they could do a little bit more gore than what had the MP2A had neutered them quite as much as what had happened at Paramount in the years earlier. So they kind of turned some of it back up, but for the most part it felt like a Freddy movie and not a good Freddy movie. So again, this one just kind of comes down to how much I enjoy the matchup at the end of it, and it's enough that I put it here, but that's as far as I can go with it. So number 26 on the list is Friday the 13th, the remake. This is another one of those that right up to the opening credits, that scene at the beginning of it, if they could have kept that pace and that feel all the way through the movie, this one would probably be top 5 in the franchise. That opening sequence is badass. I like the twist at the end. You really think that the one character is going to make it, and it turns out not to be. It turns out to be the other one. They do the flip on the final girl in the last act, and that's great. All the scenes with Jason are good. It's probably my favorite portrayal of Jason. I think that the guy, Derek Mears, who plays Jason in this, is the best portrayal of Jason. Much as I love Kane Hodder, as much as I like Ted White, I think that Derek Mears just is the best of both worlds when it comes to Jason. He's big and menacing, he's fast, he's aggressive. Everything that I really want in a Jason, that's what we got in this one. And the characters were either bland or annoying or curt. Jared Padalecki's in it, and I liked him in Supernatural, but he really came off dry in this. There's a lot of things about this one that I like. It's definitely middle of the road. So number 25 on the list is Halloween 2018. This movie, I like the portrayal of Michael Myers. I like that Jamie Lee Curtis came back. I'm kind of a sucker for that. I like the portrayal of Michael Myers, and I like that Jamie Lee Curtis came back. I don't like that they did away with the other Halloween movies in the franchise. Halloween 2 is a great movie. 4 is a great movie. I just don't think that going back to doing a direct sequel to the first one at this point in time was something that I wanted. This whole movie is fan service, and 2018 to death. Most of the characters are weak and throwaway characters and uninteresting. The Sartain character is a really bad Ahab. He's not anywhere near a Loomis. He's not even on the same, not even in the same book, let alone the same page as a Loomis. But he's a bad Ahab as far as tropes go. I didn't like the twist with him. That was, I don't know, I didn't like that one. I don't really care much for the movie in general. The kills were great, but that's about all there really was to it. The final battle at the end in the house is pretty good. It's not great, but there was just way too much fan service in it, way too much sucking up to the Carpenter fan club with dropping H2, getting rid of the brother-sister angle, leaving too much of it open, not explaining enough. Alright, so number 24 on the list is A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. This is a visually stunning entry into it. I really like the cinematography. I like what was done that way. I like the character of Alice. I think Alice is better in 5 than she is in this one, but I like her. I like her art. The daydream thing is cool. It disappears in the in it for no reason. I didn't like the brother. I didn't like the way that they killed off Kincaid. A lot of people bag on Tuesday Night for replacing Arquette as Kristen. I don't hate her by any means. I think she did a pretty good job with the character that she was given, with the way that they had it written in this one. I don't think she does bad by any stretch of the imagination. I'm glad that she wasn't in much more of the movie than what she was. If you look at this movie separately, she's kind of mediocre. She's your average low-budget slasher actress versus Arquette in the previous one, who excelled in a great movie. She's left with a decent movie. She's a decent actress, so by no means am I going to bag on her for that. She did what she could with the role that she had, and she didn't do bad with it. I don't care what anybody says, she didn't do bad. She's just average in an average movie. I liked how 3 ended. I liked the way that that was done, and the way that they brought Freddy back in this one. I don't know, maybe you have to be Rennie Harlan to get it, because I don't get it. I think it's dumb. Again, the secondary characters in it are, other than the ones returning from the other one and Alice, are mediocre at best. I think this movie is the pivot point between the good Freddy and 5, 6 Freddy. This one rides that line, and it does a pretty good job. Most of the puns in it, most of the one-liners work, but they just don't really work. This movie is the definition of whelmed. You're not overwhelmed or underwhelmed with this one. You're just kind of blah. It's not my favorite, but I don't hate it. I can watch it if I'm marathoning it. I don't dread watching this one by any means. It was interesting, but it's not great. So number 23 on the list is Halloween 5. Yeah, I know a lot of people hate this one, but I think it's pretty good. I like the fact that Loomis has kind of snapped and gone to the other side. Loomis is now the psycho in it. Again, Danielle Harris does a good job with what she's given. I don't hate Tina. I know a lot of people do. I think she's an 80s, 90s teenager doing 80s, 90s teenager kind of things and reacting the way that they would. People bag on the whole Michael doing so much driving in it. I love the car. I don't hate the fact that he drives in it. The deputies there for comic relief are bad, but there's so much worse than them out there that's it's kind of playful and kind of amusing. Just, they're not funny. They don't add anything, but you can't... Some people hate them, but I don't hate them. Not by any means. Again, this is kind of getting into that middle of the pack, and everything is kind of middle of the pack. I like the fact that Michael passed something of himself to Jamie. I would have preferred that it was more of a killer instinct than the mute thing, but it was interesting that that touch that he gave her, or she gave him, passed something between them. Yes, it would have been very interesting if they had, made her the killer, made her the villain, but I don't think it would have been appropriate at the time. I don't think it really fit the franchise to make, unless they jumped ahead and had her come back out of the asylum as like they did in the first one. I just don't think it made sense for the franchise. Number 22 on the list. Here we go pushing buttons again, as if that last one didn't. Number 22 on the list is Friday the 13th Part 4, A Final Chapter. Again, middle of the road, middle of the pack, middle of the franchise for me. I think Corey Feldman in it is a lot of the reason people love this movie. But if you really back up, take the nostalgia glasses off a little bit, and actually look at it, he's got some really great scenes. The whole end of it is really great, He does a great job with it. But some of the rest of it's kind of phoned in. Again, most of the other characters in it are not interesting. And personally, one of the things that puts it this low on it for me is Crispin Glover. I cannot stand him. He's not funny. I don't like the Ted character at all. Every time he's on screen, it just makes my teeth itch. I cannot stand to see him act. I have never liked him in anything. I may like the movie that he was in. I like the first Back to the Future. Think it's a good movie for its time. But every scene that he's in, I'm just like, whatever. You know, and if it's just something that's not, I'll skip it. I will skip a scene with him in it because I cannot stand him. He's probably the actor that I dislike the most. For some god-off unknown reason, people seem to love the dance sequence, which is just, it's been done better in other movies. I don't enjoy his performance in it at all. And the movie takes a 180-degree turn. His character dies. From there on out, the movie is much better than anything that he's in. So number 21 on the list is Halloween H2O. I like this movie to a point. Again, we're kind of in this middle of the road here. I like Jamie Lee's role in this one. I like Adam Arkin's role in this one. I like Josh Hartnett. The other characters are kind of throwaway characters. They're kind of just there for body count. Don't really care about them. But I like the relationship between this version of Laurie and her son. I like the interplay between the two of them. I like the interplay between them, again, and Arkin. Him and his father are two actors that I really like. The LL Cool J character, he doesn't really add anything to it for the most part. He does a fair job as comic relief, but he's not great. He's a token character. I don't dislike him as an actor now. I've seen him in NCIS, and I think he's pretty good in that. And a couple of other things that he did in between, I think he was pretty good in those. This was probably his first, and if not his first, it was pretty close to it, and you can tell he's just there to put that wrapper for that new and hip, modern for its time take on that, and they shoehorned him in there, and he's just a throwaway character who's supposed to be there for comic relief, and he does really good as a throwaway character, but he does mediocre as comic relief. What this movie does do that I really love is the ending. The decap scene, the whole ambulance at the end of it, and the decapitation scene, that is such an epic final moment that it really should have ended this franchise, at least as far as that timeline went. If they wanted to go and retcon and come back and whatever again, that would have been whatever, but as far as that went, that really should have ended it, and because that was just a great way to end it. So number 20 on the list is Halloween Kills. I know this movie has divided the fan base so hard over the last few months that I almost didn't put it on this countdown. This movie has some issues. It's not great. This movie is not awesome. This movie is, in some ways, doesn't really feel like a Halloween movie. It feels like it should be in a different franchise to a degree. I think the little girl that played Lindsay Wallace, who came back from the first one, I think she did good. Jamie Lee Curtis is Laurie Strode all over the screen. I don't hate that they took her out of the starring role and made her a secondary character in this one and put Michael front and center. I get that it's the bridge movie. It's the second part of a trilogy. And for what it is, right now, this is where it is because it's definitely at higher end of it, but definitely middle of the road. There are some amusing characters. The gay couple, the old couple at the beginning of it, all of that. You know, like everybody else, those are great moments in this movie. The social commentary is a little bit on the button, on the nose. This franchise has never shied away from that to a degree before. There's a lot of horror movies have made social commentaries. but the ones that I like the best are the ones who keep it much more subtle. It's one of the major problems that I have with 2018 is, as I say quite often on this channel, they couldn't get their agenda out of the way of their message. They were so worried about beating you over the head with what they want you to think that they couldn't just leave you a positive message to get you to see their side of things. And this movie, while nowhere near as blatant as 2018, it's definitely there in it. It's not nearly as on the nose as that, but it's still kind of on its sleeve. This movie kind of has some moments, and you have to go into it with tempered expectations. The kills in it are awesome. That's the name of the movie, and that's what brought you in to see. And if that's all you're there for, the carnage candy is, as Randy calls it in Scream, is right up there. But as far as everything else, it's just to keep you interested in the franchise until Halloween Ends comes out. All right, so we're moving on here to number 19. I'm sorry, number 19 on my list. We're getting to that top section here. These are the ones that are really the more preferred in my book. So number 19 is going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre Leatherface 2017. The center section of this movie is awesome. This is a really great, bloody, gory, and fun road trip movie. The setup at the beginning of it is kind of not good, but not horrible. The back end of it is pretty good. It's just it doesn't link up the way they wanted it to as a direct prequel to the original from '73. But where this movie shines is the middle. The twist on it at the end of the middle section of it, they shouldn't have done that. They should have just went with the character that didn't make any sense, and that does hurt the movie. I know that's one of the things that pissed off a lot of people. I don't like it. I think it's a bad way to create this character, to change it from the character that we get in this movie into the character that we've known and loved from the original. But as far as the road trip section of it itself goes, this movie is great. The beginning of it is okay at best. It tries really hard to give you the origins of these characters. It also tries really hard to set up 3D. And because of the way that things don't exactly mesh, when you look at them as a trilogy, that causes the main problems with this movie. If you just sit down and watch this movie as a movie by itself, as a solo movie, it's actually a pretty good movie. All the actors in it were great. The sheriff is great. The Vera character is acted very well. The ones that are on the run are all done very well. So this movie's number 19 for me. I like this movie. You can definitely see that there were some budget limitations within it, but there were huge budget limitations with the first one. You can't really hold that against this. Alright, so number 18 on the list is A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake. Again, I'm burning some bridges here probably, but I think that this movie, for what it is pretty decent. It's in my top 20. It's pretty decent. I love the fact that they went back to the dark, scary Freddy. There's still some snarky comments and one-liners in it, but that's not the focus of it. Freddy's there to scare. Freddy's there to kill, and I like that aspect of it. Jackie Earle Haley, not my Freddy, but I don't think he does a bad job. He's kind of meh on it. I don't think he does great. A lot of people think that his part of it is the only good part of it, but I don't think he's great in it. The CG is terrible in it. Even some of the simplest things that could have been done practically for minimum to no budget, and they went CG on it, is stupid and is Hollywood shooting itself in the foot. Yeah, the director didn't really want to do it. The lead actress didn't really want to do it, and you can tell that there are some behind-the-scenes stuff, and you can tell she's phoning it in. Everyone else in it, for some reason, people are holding these actors in this to this super high standard of now. And if you look at it in context of most of the movies in these franchises, most of them are lower budget movies. And while this one had a huge special effects budget, or at least a pretty good special effects budget, it wasn't really huge by today's standards, but it had a pretty good budget for that sort of stuff. But the acting in it is along the same lines for the other characters other than Mara's character, are on par with the rest of the franchise. So I don't bag on them for that. I don't hate them for that. Yeah, Kyle Gallagher, or whatever the hell the kid's name is, Gallagher or something Gallagher, plays basically the same character in every movie he's in. And yeah, that does somewhat get old. Every time you see his name come up, you expect that same character, and you get it here. He doesn't do anything new with it, but he doesn't drop the ball either. So the darkness of it and the way that they did the Freddy character in it, and the fact that they went back to a really scary Freddy, I like. And I personally don't hate them by any means for going back to the original origins of Freddy. It was subtext in the first movie and then just kind of thrown away after that. Excuse me. But I like Freddy as a villain, and yeah, that's a cheap heat way to make him a villain, but it makes him a real villain. You can't go into this movie going, yay, it's a Freddy movie, and rooting for Freddy because he's funny, because in this one, he's not. And that's the way the villain of the movie should be. Alright, so the next movie on the list doesn't actually have a number, because it's not official canon. But I do want to bring it up, and this is where I put it in the franchises, and that is the Never Hike Alone movies. Both of them, Never Hike in the Snow and Never Hike Alone, they're fan movies, but they're definitely up on that indie level, that bottom tier of the indie level as far as financing goes. There's some great suspense in it. There's some really good action in it. The portrayal of Jason is good. It's so super well done that, again, it's up here in the top 20, and a lot of this franchise isn't. As much as I'm a Friday fan, and I am, the Never Hike Alone movies are good enough that on my list are between 18 and 17. So, number 17 on my list is TCM 3D. Oh yeah, if I hadn't already run some people off with the other opinions, I'm going to run them off with this one. Yeah, the 3D effects are bad. Shoehorning this one into continuity with the original and retconning the rest of the franchise, okay. Because the rest of the franchise, there's really no direct line between any of them. Each one is kind of its own thing. The timeline doesn't match up. If you're a fan of any TCM other than the first two, and you bitch about the timeline, then you just don't get it. TCM 3D is a good, bad movie. This movie is so, the elements of it that aren't good are so bad they're fun. But there's an awful lot here that is really good. The lead actress in it is really good in this. Most of the other ones in it are really good in this. The cameo from the original is good in this. The opening sequences of it is great. It really is. It sets it up. And the timeline doesn't match, but they kind of obscure things in it to kind of fudge the timeline of the original and this one. They kind of leave it, and the budget for this was very small, and what they did have went into the 3D crap that they shouldn't have done. They should have spent that money on making this movie take place a few years earlier than what it does. And there are some cringy lines, and God, I hate that term, but there are some cringy lines in this movie. The dialogue in it is goofy, but look at the dialogue in 2. It's goofy. Look at the dialogue in the original Leatherface is goofy. 4 is beyond that. So if you're a fan of any of those movies and you bitch about the dialogue in this one, I don't know what to tell you, because the dialogue in this one is no worse than what it is in 2, 3, 4. And it's just a fun, good slash and hack and slash movie. Yeah, the CG in it is bad. The 3D effects of 3D just doesn't work for me. Not this kind of 3D. The real D stuff, that's kind of cool and it does work, but this, not so much. So number 16 on the list, speaking of 3D that doesn't work, is Friday the 13th 3D. I love this movie. This is really, and this one is where we really turn the corner into the movies that I really, really like. This movie, it's the one where Jason gets the mask. I like Shelley. I like the couple at the beginning and that run the little store. A lot of things in this one's like. The final girl, Chris, is kind of, well, she's actually a lot boring. And her little love interest in it isn't really very good either. He's kind of that Ted McGinty character. Reminds me a lot of him in it. But, I kind of overlooked that because I like all the other characters. The dippy hippie couple. The girl that they were trying to set Shelley up with. The other couple that was there. I like all of them. That handstand kill is an awesome kill in this. Like I said, Jason gets his mask. The 3D doesn't hold up when you look at it in HD, especially not in like 4K and that sort of thing. It just doesn't really... You can see the strings. But I do enjoy this movie, even though it's definitely a throwback in some ways, pacing-wise, to the first one and to earlier movies like the first 2 Halloweens. So that was number 16. Number 15 is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Dead. Or Freddy's Revenge, I'm sorry. I like Freddy dark, and I like Freddy scary. The undertones of this movie are what they are. It doesn't... I don't watch it because of that, but I don't avoid it because of that. It's just part of the way this movie is done. I don't think that Lisa, the love interest, I don't think she's a very good actress, but I like the character. I like what she's there for. I think the Jesse character and the Grady character are both very good, both very well acted. The Schneider character is pretty well acted. I like that actor. The guy that plays Jesse's father, I like that actor. The character is written kind of campy and over the top, but the movie's kind of camp in places as well. But it's a great portrayal of the dark Freddy. And I enjoy that, and I enjoy this movie overall. So number 14 on this list is the first Rob Zombie Halloween. I enjoy the second and third act of this movie immensely. The first act, I don't. I really wish that they had just started this movie where Michael kills the stepdad and the sister's boyfriend. And if they wanted to put some more of the interactions from the earlier parts of it, it could have been put later into it as flashbacks. But the sequences with Loomis and Michael at the sanitarium is really good. I really like those interactions. I love Tyler Mane as Michael. He's a great Michael Myers in the way that he carries himself and how menacing he is, how physical he is, and how big he is. Really put that into the Michael character. The way that he moves is really good. There's some of the dark humor in it that's not the first part of it. Plays off very well to me. And then once you get to the last part of it, it's like they took the original movie and cranked it up past 11 to about 15. And they really picked it up. They really did and I really enjoyed the way that it was done. It packs an entire movie that had some pacing issues for me. Even when I did see this younger, I get the art of the filmmaking now, but I still like a more, as a general rule, I like a more up-tempo kind of energy and feel to it, and that's what we got for the last half of it. The last act of it is brutal and really good to me. I enjoy it. Alright, so number 13 on the list is Friday the 13th Part 2, Sackhead Jason. I really like the Jenny character in this one. She's one of my top 2 final girls in the Friday franchise. She's smart. It's got some great kills in this one. The double spear on the bed, the wheelchair guy down the ramp, and then, of course, the final sequence at the end of it with Jenny in the sweater. This is a really good entry into it. It's the first time we get a Jason entry. Hillbilly Sackhead Jason, great kill on the sheriff, and it's a really good movie. So number 12 on my list is Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. I really enjoyed this one. I like most of the characters, and I love Junior and Ethel. I like the Tommy performance in this one, but Junior and Ethel make this movie. They are absolutely hysterical in so many ways. A lot of people don't like this one because it's not Jason. It's a big dude in a hockey mask in the woods fucking people up. If you're going to complain about the ending of it, then you've got to complain about the ending of every single Friday the 13th movie, because that last couple of minutes, other than the first one, all have, Jason's mother pops up at the end of 2, and, all of this stuff. Yeah, shoehorning the Roy thing into it is a little bit, it's par for the course for this series. If you're a Friday fan and you hate this one because of Roy, I don't know what to tell you, because there's something wrong with you. Because there's some great kills in this one. And again, Ethel and Junior really make this movie for me. So number 11 on my list is Jason X. Again, here's another movie that people seem to hate, but I love this one. This movie is, for me, a parody of the Friday franchise. Everything that the Friday the 13th franchise has set up, this movie pokes it one good time. Sometimes a little bit more than once. I like all the characters in it. I love the KM robot. I like the scenes with her. I like the Lexa Dogue character. I think she's smart. I like the fact that somebody from 600 years ago is the smartest one on the ship in a lot of ways. As far as, street smarts go, she's not nearly as technical as the students are in the future, but I like the Marines. It's got some great kills. The liquid nitrogen kills a lot of people's favorite kills. A lot of people's favorite kill. Now, me personally, my favorite one in it is the kid who falls onto the drill bit. I love that one. That cracks me up. He's screwed. The little girl that gets sucked out through the hole. This sucks on so many levels. That cracks me up. The Uber Jason mask is badass. The suit looks like a Power Ranger villain, but that mask with those red glowing eyes, love that. So number 10 on my list is the original Halloween 2. The wig is bad, but everything else in this movie is awesome. I love the ending of it. I love the way that, Loomis sacrifices himself. The 2 paramedics, I like both of them. The nurse that he kills with the scalpel and lifts up off the floor to show that he's on par with the other killers of the day. The hot tub sequence is really good. The kid with the razor blade in his mouth has always kind of freaked me out, even though we know now that that's pretty much an urban legend, but still. It's always kind of, seeing it on there has always freaked me out. That's a pretty badass prosthetic on that one. I like Jamie Lee Curtis anyway, and I think she did a really good job of continuing, showing Laurie's trauma later that night, the immediate response to everything that she had been through. Of course, Donald Pleasance was a legend for a reason, and, he does a great job in this one. The moments between him and Laurie, even though it's not a lot, are really good in that final sequence. So, yeah, number 10 on my list. There, we're into the top 10, and it's the original Halloween 2. So, number 9 on my list, TCM The Beginning. This is the prequel to the remake. This is where the original remake was focused on the group of kids. This one's much more focused on the family, on Arlie Ermey's character on how Leatherface came to be in this version of the mythology of it. I really liked that. I really like the guy who plays Leatherface in this one as Leatherface. Again, I like, those big guys who are playing these characters, and the way that he moves, the way that he portrays the character, I really like. The origin story to it is significantly... It feels like it fits in with the remake. It feels like it fits in with the original from '73. It really has that gritty feeling to it in the way that the Leatherface character came to be. This movie, for me, relies too much on the gore over story. It was definitely trying to keep up with the heavy hitter franchises of that time, the Saws and the Hostels, and going for it as full bore as they could. I do think that the story suffers a little bit for that. I do think that the kids that come into this are a lot weaker than what the ones were from the remake, but they're not bad. None of them are bad. And I like the way that this one ends to set up the original, the remake. The original remake, or whatever you want to call however you want to put it in between the prequel and the remake. So, number 8 on my list is Halloween 4. So, like I said at the very beginning, Halloween 3 was the first Halloween that I saw, and I hated it. And still don't like it at all. Halloween 4 was coming out in the theaters, and some friends and I were going to go see it. So the weekend before Halloween 4 came out was when I actually saw Halloween 1 and 2. By the time I saw them, I knew, of course, who Michael Myers was, and slasher versus whatever the sci-fi, magical, whatever the hell Halloween 3 was. So I saw 1 and 2, and then the very next weekend I went to the theater and saw 4. I really liked 4, and I still enjoy 4. It's definitely, that top tier for me. Like I said, out of the 40 on this list, this is number 8 for me. So I enjoyed it then, and I still enjoy this one. So number 7 for me is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. I love the way that the humor is done in this one. I love the callbacks to Frankenstein, Karloff's General Store, Carpenter Road. I like how they pay tribute to the people who have been before them. And I just enjoy the way that this movie is handled. I think it's probably one of the best of the franchises in so many ways. The portrayal of Jason is done quite well. The portrayal of Tommy is my favorite of the 3 versions we get of Tommy. But only by a little bit over Part 5's Tommy. But it is, again, still my favorite Tommy. The Megan character is right up there with Jenny as my top 2 final girls. She's smart. She's funny. She can handle herself very well. I like the idea of adding to since Jason has been resurrected Frankenstein style or zombie Jason, I like the mythology of sending him back to the lake. That's smart thinking on a way to do it, as far as adding to the Jason mythology and making it, and bringing it all together. So this is obviously one of my, right up there at the very top on my Friday franchise rankings, and it's way up here on this list. So number 6 is the original Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. Robert Englund as Freddy in this one. He does a great job. There are some moments in it that are a little after-school drama. That scene on the bridge with Johnny Depp's character and Nancy, Glenn and Nancy on the bridge there is definitely after-school special. The Dream Clinic is pretty weak acting from every person in it, including Charles Fleischer. Although I do love the fact that her doctor in this went on to be Roger Rabbit, just because of what it is. But I think that this story is a really good story, let down by a crappy ending. The Sparkle Freddy, when she turns her back on him, and Freddy in the real world, watching Robert Englund run, isn't scary at all. Everything that he had in the dream sequences before he kind of loses at the end, for the most part. Now, the full body burn that was done was badass, and yeah, that's pretty much kind of it when it comes to the ending of it. That was good, but you know, the blow up doll being sucked through the window. I did like the car at the end, and of course the ghost of the little kids jumping rope. But once she brings Freddy out into the quote unquote real world, starts the Home Alone shit, and then we get Sparkle Freddy when she turns her back. That kind of brings down the rest of this movie, because the rest of this movie was a masterclass in creating an atmosphere. And the tilt-a-whirl rooms where Tina went up, and then of course the blender bed from when Glenn gets sucked into it. Iconic scenes, and they are for a reason. Alright, so now we are into the top 5. Number 5 is the TCM, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Remake. Again, I like the guy who plays Leatherface. I like the way that he does that in this movie. I like the kids in the van. Arlie Ermy is great. Even though you know the extended family twist is coming, because you can read that coming a mile away, and it plays homage to what the original franchise did. It's still really cool, and really creepy with the little girl that's in it, and the baby thing. It rides that balance between gore and story. It really is well worked out, well thought out. The cinematography in it's great. A lot of times I complain about colored filters, but the colored filters work in this one to give it that feeling of the 70s and the way film stock was in the 70s. It brings back the feeling that the original gave you. You know, that's number 5 on my list because that's a badass movie. So number 4 on the list is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. This is the peak Freddy for me as far as having the quality one-liners and humor, as well as maintaining the atmosphere. And it even picks up the atmosphere from the first one very well. There's good, solid suspense in the real-world scenes. Most of the dream sequences hold up very well. The claymation, not so much for me, and the marionette scene, not so much, because you can see the way that it was projected. But really and truly, everything else in it does. The dream sequences are dark, but you can still see what's going on. There's a dark humor in it that is very much a black comedy type of humor in it. Freddy's still scary, but he's not quite on the level of what he was in 1 and 2, but he's definitely not turned into the comedian that he was later on. The cast for it is great. The Kincaid character, the Joey character, the punk rock chick that was in it is awesome. That's such a great sequence with her and Freddy in the alley, where he has the needles and the little mouths on her arm. So, I mean, this for me is my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I really enjoy this one, and that's number 4 for me. So number 3 for me is the original Halloween. John Carpenter's classic. This movie has some pacing issues for me. Some things on it just aren't really what I want. There's not enough gore in it. It's almost completely bloodless. The acting in it is quite good for the level of actors, you know, for, again, slasher movie actors, B movie actors, low budget actors. Jamie Lee Curtis is great in it. PJ Souls is good in it. And everybody else is just kind of middle of the road. Of course, other than Donald Pleasance. Now, Donald Pleasance is beyond all of that. But I really like the interplay between the Loomis character and the sheriff character. Tension and atmosphere is maintained throughout. Both the child actors are not bad by any means, as far as actors go, and actually for child actors from that, especially from that era, are quite good. It just suffers a little bit for me in pacing. So number 2 on my list, after what I just said, but number 2 on my list is the original Friday the 13th. Now, this movie for me suffers greatly from the pacing. However, this movie for me holds a very special place because of nostalgia. I was 8 years old and staying at my grandmother's house, and I was sick. And I mean, I was sleeping on the couch with a bucket next to it, sick. And I got up and turned the TV back on, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and the original Friday the 13th came on. And it was before remote control TVs, folks. Yes, I'm that old. And I did not feel like getting up and going and changing the channel. That was the channel it was on when I turned it back on, and whatever was on it was what I was going to watch, because I was here and gone and sick, stomach virus. But I sat and actually watched the whole thing at 8 years old, and I have loved this movie ever since. Okay, again, this movie suffers, looking at it now, suffers from pacing issues. It's slow in the middle. And again, I fully admit it's all nostalgia for this movie. But this is my favorite Friday the 13th movie. It's number 2 on this list, strictly for nostalgia, because I watch this movie at least once a year. Because I enjoy this movie. I like all the characters in the movie. I like the twist. The fight scene at the end of it is not super great, but it was 1980, and it was what it was. So my number 1 on this list is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, I don't watch this one as often as I watch the first Friday the 13th, or the third Nightmare on Elm Street, or I probably do watch it more than I watch Halloween, though. But for me, this is the movie that sets this list. Without this movie, you wouldn't have any of these other movies. And yeah, like I said at the beginning, I'm not ranking them by quality. I'm ranking them by what they mean to me. And this movie, for me, is that ultimate grindhouse 70s. It really encapsulates all the things that were and all the things that I enjoy about the slasher genre, and a lot of what I enjoy about the horror genre in general. There's not a lot of gore in it, but the way that it sets things up, your mind puts the gore into it, versus like Halloween that shows you a stab with no gore, or kill someone with a telephone cord. Well, this one, hits them over the head with the hammer, and you see the hammer, and then you don't see them again, so your mind can create the gore that's not there. So this movie is what a lot of movies could be. It's, for me, the most interesting. The horrific things that went on set for them to get this movie made add to it. very disquieting, disturbing soundtrack to this movie, because they use these industrial sounds instead of music tracks for the most part. The way that the family comes together. But also a lot of this one for me is the dark humor. This movie knows when to stick in something quirky and odd, and it's funny. It's genuinely funny. When the cook is subduing Sally in the back of the restaurant and he's beating her with the broom, he's beating her with the bristle end of it. He sticks her in the truck and then starts complaining about the cost of living, and how leaving the lights on and, nickel and dimes can break a person. He gets home and yells at the hitchhiker, look what your brother did to the door, is what is his main concern with it. All those things like that add up to an atmosphere that is so unique, and so intriguing, and something that I can go back to. Like I said, I probably don't watch this one as much as I watch the first Friday or the third Nightmare. But I do watch it, and whenever I watch this one is never background noise. This one is never something I can put on behind me while I'm working on, thumbnails or something over here. And I could do that with the others, but this one is one that holds my attention so well, and for me, that makes it number one on this countdown. Alright folks, so that's going to do it for me on this one. I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget the links down below for Kubrick Lover's video. He's up next in the Conga line. And also my personal links, Teespring. You can pick up this shirt or other things. I've got thermal mugs and things like that, coffee cups, that sort of stuff. I've also got a Patreon, and I've also got Buy Me a Coffee and an Amazon wish list down there. And also, don't forget, if you can spare anything right now, don't forget my buddy Aiden and his Go Sober for October in aid of Macmillan Cancer. And as I always say, thank you all so much for watching. Y'all be good, y'all be safe, and y'all have a good one.